The night was unusually quiet in the suburban street. The kind of silence that pressed against the windows and made the small house feel isolated, almost vulnerable, and Alex, sitting alone on his worn couch with a cup of lukewarm coffee, thought he could finally breathe after a long day. But then came the sound, a faint scratching at the front door, soft but deliberate, like someone trying not to be heard, yet desperate enough to persist. He froze, heart hammering in his chest, coffee forgotten, as the sound repeated faster. This time, urgent and pleading. With cautious steps, he approached the door, glancing through the peephole, expecting maybe a lost animal or a prankster neighbor, but instead, he saw something that made him stumble backward in disbelief. A small figure crouched there, drenched and shivering, with skin that shimmered faintly under the porch light, eyes larger than human, and reflecting a strange, otherworldly glow. "Please, I just need to wash," the figure whispered, voice trembling, yet carrying a weight that seemed far older than her appearance suggested. Alex blinked, uncertain if he was dreaming, hallucinating, or truly witnessing a creature that defied logic. Every instinct screamed to run, to lock the door and call for help, yet a strange, inexplicable pull rooted him to the spot. The figure's gaze was not hostile, only desperate, pleading, and human enough in expression to ignite a flicker of empathy in him. With a trembling hand, Alex unlatched the door, keeping a safe distance. The girl stepped inside cautiously, dripping water onto the floor, her every movement wary and precise, as if she had learned the language of stealth from necessity. She glanced around, wide-eyed, taking in the mundane living room, the cluttered shelves, the hum of the refrigerator, and for a moment, Alex noticed how fragile she seemed, like someone out of place in a world she did not belong to. "I just need to clean," she whispered again, voice breaking slightly, and Alex, still reeling from shock, nodded slowly, gesturing toward the bathroom. As she moved past him, the room seemed to pulse faintly with light from her skin, a soft glow that made the shadows in the corners of the room deepen, twisting subtly as if aware of her presence. Alex tried to calm his racing thoughts, telling himself that maybe it was an elaborate prank, a projection, some elaborate costume, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop slightly around her, and small objects on the shelves trembled, ever so slightly as she passed, confirming that she was not entirely like him, not entirely human. While she washed, Alex could not stop himself from stealing glances, studying her movements, noticing the subtle differences, the way her fingers moved, the delicate structure of her ears, the faint shimmer that rippled across her wet hair like liquid metal. Despite the fear gnawing at his gut, he felt a strange fascination, a mix of awe and worry, wondering what had brought her here, why she was so desperate, and what would happen if anyone discovered her presence. The quiet hum of the house became deafening as he realized the risks: neighbors, authorities, the world itself, but the girl's small, trembling form tugged at something deeper in him. Sensed that she was not just a stranger, but someone fleeing from danger he could not yet perceive. And then the sound came again from the shadows outside the window, a faint rustle, deliberate and calculated, like someone or something was tracking her. The girl froze mid-motion, water dripping from her hands, eyes widening in silent alarm, and Alex instinctively moved closer, feeling a surge of protectiveness. He knew then that the night had changed, that nothing would ever be ordinary again, and that the quiet life he had imagined was shattered by the presence of this mysterious, otherworldly girl. As he glanced at her, soaked and shivering, fragile, yet radiant in a way he could not comprehend, she whispered once more, almost to herself, I need to wash." And Alex realized that those simple words carried more meaning than he could yet understand. They were a plea for help, a call for trust, and perhaps unknowingly, the beginning of something far larger than either of them could imagine. The night pressed on outside, silent and watchful, and Alex, torn between fear and empathy, knew that letting her stave in temporarily was the first step into a world of mysteries, dangers, and secrets that would challenge everything he thought he knew about life, the universe, and the fragile boundaries between human and alien. And as he closed the bathroom door behind her, the shadows beyond the windows shifted again, reminding him that she was not safe. that someone or something was watching, and that the events of this night were only the first page of a story that would change both their lives forever. The morning sunlight barely pierced through the drawn curtains, yet the room felt charged with an energy Alex could not explain. A subtle hum that seemed to originate from the alien girl as she moved around his small apartment, drying her hair and clothing with careful, deliberate motions. Her skin still shimmered faintly, catching the light in strange, iridescent patterns, and Alex found himself watching, torn between fear and fascination, unable to shake the feeling that the simple act of letting her stay had pulled him into a world far larger than anything he had imagined. She kept her gaze low, careful to avoid drawing attention to herself, yet every so often, her glowing eyes flicked to objects around the room, and Alex noticed items twitch slightly, wires bending, or gadgets vibrating ever so subtly as if responding to her presence. "I'm not used to hiding," she admitted softly, voice trembling. "But I have to. There, following me." Alex's pulse quickened. He didn't ask who they were. He already felt the danger in the way shadows seemed to move. When she approached, in the faint pressure in the air that made the hairs on his arms rise. Over the next few hours, the girl who gave her name as Lee revealed more than words could convey. Small actions betrayed knowledge and skill far beyond human experience. She repaired a broken lamp with a flick of her fingers, causing the light bulb to glow without electricity, and she whispered to the smartphone on the table, which buzzed and displayed symbols Alex had never seen. Each display, each subtle movement, confirmed what he had begun to suspect. Lyra was not just another visitor, not just someone in trouble. She carried secrets, knowledge, and abilities that could change the world if revealed. Yet there was a vulnerability to her, a fragility that made him want to protect her despite the risks. Alex found himself asking questions cautiously, careful, not to offend or scare her. "Why are you here? What do you need from me?" She hesitated, glancing toward the window where morning light cast elongated shadows. "Can't tell you everything yet. They might find us." Her words, simple as they were, sent a shiver down Alex's spine. He noticed the small scratches on her arms, the way she flinched at every noise from outside, and the faint luminescent glow that pulsed when she was anxious. And then, for the first time, Alex sensed her thoughts not fully, but enough to understand. Her fear, her urgency, and the strange, powerful intelligence behind her pleading eyes. Outside, the street remained quiet, but Alex could not shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows seemed to cling to the corners of his apartment, and every reflection in the windows twisted slightly, hinting at shapes he could not identify. Lyra paused mid-motion, ears twitching slightly, her glow dimming and then brightening as she whispered, "They are close. They can sense me." Alex froze, realizing that he had unknowingly stepped into a game far larger than himself. A game where every move mattered, and every decision could have consequences beyond his understanding. As the day wore on, he noticed more. Small objects moved subtly when she was not looking. Electrical devices malfunctioned in her presence, and her voice sometimes carried a resonance that caused things to vibrate in the room. It was clear that her abilities were growing stronger, or at least responding to her stress. And Alex began to understand that protecting her was not just about hiding her. It was about understanding and controlling the unknown. Yet despite all these dangers, a tentative trust began to form between them. Lyra seemed to sense it, glancing at him with a small, almost imperceptible smile. And Alex felt a flicker of hope. If he could keep her safe, perhaps he could also learn her secrets, understand her story, and survive the night together. But just as the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the room in golden light, a sudden sound from outside made both of them freeze. A soft, deliberate knock at the door, heavier than before, deliberate in its intent. Lyra's glow pulsed rapidly, almost like a heartbeat, and she whispered, "They've found us. I told you, they'd always find me." Alex grabbed a nearby kitchen knife, hands shaking as the shadows outside seemed to press closer, the air itself thickening with tension. That moment, he realized that the ordinary life he had known was gone. The girl before him was not just an alien visitor, she was a key to a mystery that could bring danger. revelation, or perhaps something even more unimaginable into his world. And as the knocking continued, rhythmic, deliberate, and unyielding, Alex understood that the choice he would make in the next moments whether to trust her fully, protect her at all costs, and confront whatever waited outside would define not only their survival, but the unfolding story of secrets that were far older, far stranger, and far more powerful than he could have ever imagined. The knocking at the door turned into a pounding, loud and unrelenting, shaking the windows and rattling the frame, and Alex felt his pulse spike as Lyra's glow intensified, pulsing rapidly like a warning. She grabbed his arm, eyes wide with urgency, and whispered, "We have to move, now." Without a second thought, he followed her to the back door, heart hammering, as the sounds outside became a chorus of deliberate steps, heavy and unyielding, sending shivers down his spine. Lyra moved with surprising agility, her feet barely touching the ground, and Alex struggled to keep up, realizing that he had no idea what he had just gotten himself into. They dashed through the narrow backyard, over fences, and into a wooded area behind the houses, branches snapping underfoot, the shadows of trees stretching eerily in the moonlight. Every step brought them closer to safety, or perhaps into deeper danger. Alex could not tell. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew louder, metallic echoes, low growls, and something that sounded almost like mechanical breathing, as if their pursuers were not entirely organic. Lyra glanced back, her glow brightening, and whispered hurriedly, "They are faster than you think. They are not human." Alex swallowed hard, fear gripping his chest. But he trusted her instincts and pushed his legs harder than ever before, dodging fallen logs, leaping over roots, and following the alien girl into a narrow canyon that cut through the woods. The canyon walls rose on either side, jagged and rough, and the echo of their pursuers bounced from side to side, making it impossible to tell exactly where the threat was coming from. Lyra stopped suddenly, pressed against the wall, and her glow dimmed slightly, signaling caution. Alex froze beside her, straining to listen, and then he saw them shapes moving with unnatural speed. Shadows with glowing eyes scanning the canyon floor. They were sleek, almost predatory, and Alex realized with a chill that these were the beings Lyra had been running from. Relentless in their purpose, and capable of terrifying violence. "Follow me exactly," she whispered, voice steady but urgent. With that, she leaped to a narrow ledge along the canyon wall, moving with supernatural grace, and Alex stumbled after her, trying to mimic her movements, his hands scraping against rough rock, but managing to keep up just enough to stay. In her protective shadow, behind them, one of the pursuers lunged, claws scraping against stone, and Lyra released a surge of light from her hands, creating a blinding flare that forced it to retreat temporarily. Alex shielded his eyes, coughing from the sudden brightness, and when he looked back, he realized the canyon was alive with echoes of pursuit, every sound amplified, every shadow hiding a threat. They ran on, twisting through narrow paths, jumping over chasms, and avoiding pitfalls that Alex hadn't noticed in the dim light. His muscles screamed in protest, but he could not stop. No. Not with Lyra relying on him and with the pursuers so close behind. At one point, they reached a small cave, barely large enough for them to fit, and Lyra pressed him against the wall, her glow dim, listening to the footsteps echo outside. "They are everywhere," she whispered. "They will not give up. We need to reach the river. There's a place there they cannot follow as easily." Alex nodded, breathing hard, sweat mixing with dirt on his face, and followed her out into the open again, where moonlight reflected off the canyon walls like a silver mirror, making shadows twist and shimmer. The pursuit intensified, with creatures leaping and bounding, their eyes glinting in the darkness. Lyra turned suddenly, releasing another burst of light that momentarily blinded their pursuers, and they used the distraction to sprint toward the river she had mentioned. The water glistened in the moonlight, fast and wild, and Lyra gestured for Alex to jump in with her. Hesitant but desperate, he dove in, cold water enveloping him. The current strong and disorienting, yet he surfaced beside Lyra, who guided him to a calmer bank on the far side. As they collapsed on the muddy ground, breathing heavily, Lyra whispered, "Almost exhausted, we survived this. But they will not stop. They never stop." Alex stared at her, awe and fear mixing in equal parts, realizing that the night had changed everything. The quiet life he had known was gone forever, replaced by a reality of shadows, alien powers, and relentless pursuers. And as they listened to the distant sounds of movement in the canyon, Alex understood that survival meant trusting Lyra completely, understanding her secrets, and preparing for challenges far beyond anything he had ever imagined. The chase had ended for now, but the real battle, the one that would uncover her story and reveal the truth of who or what was after her, was only beginning. By the time they reached a dense thicket near the riverbank, both Alex and Lyra were soaked and exhausted, lungs burning from the chase, hearts pounding like wild drums, yet the danger was far from over. The shadows of the pursuers had not disappeared. They lingered just beyond the trees, glowing eyes scanning, ready to strike at the first misstep. Lyra pressed her hand to Alex's shoulder, her glow brightening, and whispered urgently, "You need to trust me completely now. There is no other way." Alex nodded, though fear clawed at his chest, and watched as she lifted her hands, fingertips pulsing with a soft blue light. The air seemed to hum and vibrate around her, leaves quivering, small branches bending slightly, almost as if nature itself responded to her presence. "Watch closely," she murmured, voice calm but commanding. And then a surge of energy burst from her, sweeping across the clearing. The pursuers recoiled, their forms distorting, their approach slowed as if invisible walls had risen before them. Alex stumbled back in awe, realizing that the girl he had once seen as fragile and desperate was now a being of incredible power, capable of bending reality in subtle but decisive ways. Lyra's glow intensified, flowing across her body in rhythmic pulses, each one creating ripples in the air that seemed to push the pursuers back further. "I can't hold them forever," she admitted, "but we can move while they recover." She extended a hand toward the river, and the water seemed to respond, swirling and rising slightly, forming a small barrier that hid their escape route, shimmering like liquid glass in the moonlight. Alex, still reeling, followed her movements, closely mimicking her instincts where he could, feeling a strange connection to the rhythm of her powers, the way her presence guided and protected them. As they moved along the riverbank, Lyra's glow shifted, signaling danger ahead. A fallen tree, a steep bank, rocks that could break a leg if stepped on carelessly, moved with precision, effortlessly avoiding hazards, guiding Alex safely. As the pursuers began to recover and surge forward once more, clawed shadows glinting in the faint light. Suddenly, one of the pursuers leapt toward Alex, and in an instant, Lyra released a concentrated pulse of light from her chest, creating a protective shield around him. The predator collided with the barrier, screeching, and stumbled backward, stunned. Alex's eyes widened, heart hammering, as he realized that her abilities were more than just defensive. They were intelligent, strategic, and deeply connected to her emotions and intent. They paused briefly on a rocky outcrop overlooking the river, catching their breath, and Lyra turned to him, voice serious. "There's more you need to know," she said. "I didn't come here by accident. I carry knowledge that others want, knowledge that can save lives, or destroy them. And now, because you helped me, you are part of it too." Alex swallowed hard, trying to absorb the weight of her words. The chase had revealed her powers, yes, but it had also revealed a deeper truth. Lyra was not just a scared, alien girl. She was a guardian, a messenger, and perhaps the only hope against a threat he could barely comprehend. As they prepared to move again, the pursuers regrouped below, snarling and hissing, their glowing eyes burning with relentless determination. Lyra reached out, touching Alex's arm briefly, and he felt an almost imperceptible pulse of energy, like a heartbeat syncing with hers. "Together," she said, "we can make it." And with that, she surged forward, leading him through a narrow passage between rocks, water, and dense undergrowth, using her abilities to shield, guide, and protect. The forest responded to her presence, shadows twisting and bending, creating illusions and obstacles that confused their pursuers. Alex could hardly keep up, adrenaline and awe mixing into a dizzying rush as he realized the truth. Lyra's powers were not only physical, but also psychological, shaping perception, controlling minor energies, and altering the environment to give them a fighting chance. And yet, even as they gained ground, a nagging tension remained. They were being hunted by forces far stronger, faster, and more determined than anything Alex had faced before. The night pressed on around them, a living, breathing entity full of secrets, shadows, and danger. But for the first time, Alex felt that hope might exist. Lyra's powers had given them an edge, yes, but it was their trust, their coordination, and the bond forming between them that might ultimately allow them to survive. And as the moonlight reflected on her glowing skin and the river sparkled with ethereal energy, Alex realized that the girl he had once been terrified of had become his protector, his guide, and perhaps the only reason he might make it through the night alive. But just as they thought a moment of safety had arrived, distant sounds of pursuit grew louder, echoing across the river and through the trees, reminding them that the real test, the battle to uncover Lyra's secret and survive, those who sought it, was far from over. Alex and Lyra finally paused in a small clearing, the river flowing nearby, glimmering under the moonlight, yet the air remained tense, charged with the knowledge that their pursuers were not far behind. Lyra's glow pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, as she turned to Alex with eyes that carried the weight of centuries. "There's something you need to understand," she said softly, voice trembling. "I didn't just escape them by chance. I carry something very important. It's knowledge, technology, something that could save lives, or destroy them." Alex's mind raced, trying to comprehend her words. He had already seen her powers, her ability to manipulate light and energy, her uncanny awareness of danger, but now he realized that her presence alone was more than a plea for help. She reached out, placing a hand on his arm. A faint warmth spread from her skin into his, sending a shiver down his spine. "This planet, your world, it is not ready for what is coming," she continued, "and I am the last of my kind. Who can protect it?" Alex's chest tightened. The weight of her words pressed down on him like a physical force. He felt fear, awe, and a strange sense of responsibility, knowing that he had become entwined in a story far larger than himself. As Lyra spoke, images flashed in his mind, cities of silver towers floating above glowing oceans, beings of light communicating through pulses of energy, worlds rising and falling in moments, and then destruction. Fleets of warships firing beams that raised entire civilizations. The flash of her memories was brief but powerful, leaving Alex gasping, struggling to process the scale of what she had endured and what she carried with her. "My people were destroyed," Lyra whispered, "by those who wanted control. Who wanted the power I now carry? I am the last, and they will not stop until they retrieve it." Her glow brightened suddenly, and a small holographic projection appeared above her hand. A swirling map of stars and planets, pinpointing locations far beyond Earth. Alex realized that this was not just information. It was a tool, a weapon, and a guide to something monumental. His heart raced. "They are coming here next," she said, voice urgent. "And if they reach Earth with what I carry..." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. Alex knew then that the stakes were unimaginably high. They were not just running to survive, but to protect a secret that could determine the fate of worlds. The distant rustle of trees reminded them that their pursuers had not given up. They were relentless, closing in with a precision that terrified Alex. Lyra touched his shoulder again, steadying him. "We have to move," she said. "I can guide you, but you must trust me completely. Everything depends on it." As they sprinted through the undergrowth, Alex struggled to keep up, adrenaline and awe mixing in equal measure. With every step, he realized how fragile their safety was, how easily the pursuers could overwhelm them, and yet how crucial his presence was to Lyra's mission. They reached a high ridge overlooking a small valley, and Lyra raised her hands, releasing a pulse of light that created an invisible shield, hiding their path from anyone below. "I can't do this alone," she said, voice trembling slightly. "I need you with me." Together we can protect the secret. Protect your world. Alex nodded, swallowing hard, feeling the weight of responsibility settle onto his shoulders. Fear mixed with determination as he realized he was no longer just a bystander. He was part of something enormous. A story of survival, power, and trust. As the wind rustled through the trees and the distant sound of movement echoed from below, Alex looked at Lyra, her glowing eyes meeting his, and understood that their bond, their trust, and their courage would define the outcome of this night. They were hiding, yet moving forward, carrying the last hope of a lost civilization in the hands of a fragile, desperate, yet incredibly powerful alien girl. And as the moonlight reflected off the river and her shimmering skin, Alex realized that the coming dawn would not just reveal light to the world, it would reveal choices, responsibilities, and dangers that could shape the future in ways he could never have imagined. The hidden truth was now out, but the fight to protect it had only just begun, and with pursuers closing in, Alex knew that every second counted, every decision mattered, and their lives and the fate of much more. Then Earth hung by a fragile thread. The night was thick with tension as Alex and Lyra raced through the dense forest, the sounds of their pursuers echoing relentlessly behind them, claws scraping against trees, mechanical hums vibrating through the ground, and glowing eyes cutting through the darkness like burning coals. Alex's lungs ached, muscles screamed, but he forced himself to keep moving, knowing that Lyra's life, fanned the fate of the secret she carried, depended on their speed and unity. Lyra's glow pulsed with urgency, her hands guiding them through the shadows, releasing bursts of light that disoriented and repelled their hunters. Yet the creatures adapted quickly, moving faster and more deliberately with every passing moment. "We have to reach the cliff," she shouted, voice cutting through the night. "There's no other way." Alex followed without hesitation, adrenaline and fear merging into a single, driving force. As they neared the cliff's edge, the forest opened into a rocky overlook, the wind whipping through the trees, carrying the scent of earth and danger. Below, the river rushed violently, crashing over rocks, its current foaming and white in, the moonlight a natural barrier against anyone pursuing too closely. Lyra turned to him, eyes glowing brightly, a fierce determination etched across her delicate face. "I can't do this alone," she said urgently. "I need you to jump with me." Without waiting for more words, she reached out. Together they leaped over the edge, falling into the river below, the cold water enveloping them like a shocking embrace. The current was strong, twisting and spinning them, yet Lyra's guidance kept them afloat, her hands steady on his, her glow lighting the turbulent water. Alex gasped, shock and awe coursing through him. As he realized she could control more than just light, she could shape energy, manipulate the environment, and guide them through the most dangerous situations with precision. The river carried them downstream around sharp bends and jagged rocks, and finally deposited them on a narrow riverbank hidden among cliffs and thick vegetation. Exhausted and shivering, Alex leaned against a tree, watching Lyra's glow dim to a soft pulse, almost like a sigh of relief. "We made it," she whispered, voice trembling with exhaustion for now, "but they will keep coming." Alex nodded, finally catching his breath, and realized the weight of their journey, not just the chase, but the responsibility of carrying her secret, the knowledge that could save worlds or destroy them. "I'll stay with you," he said firmly, "whatever comes next." Lyra's eyes softened, a small smile forming despite the tension, and she extended her hand, touching his arm lightly. A warm pulse of energy flowed between them, a silent acknowledgement of trust, courage, and the bond forged through fear and survival. They could feel the presence of their pursuers in the distance, faint but insistent, yet Alex understood that this was not just about running anymore. It was about preparing, about using their combined strength, intelligence, and courage to protect what Lyra carried. Slowly, they moved deeper into the hidden terrain, shadows and trees concealing them from view. While Lyra explained more about her people, the knowledge she carried, and the stakes that had led to her being hunted, the night stretched endlessly, but for the first time, Alex felt a sense of purpose, a clarity that came from understanding that fear could be overcome with trust and action. Together, they found a secluded cavern near the river, safe enough. For temporary shelter, Lyra used her abilities to create subtle energy shields that would mask their presence from anyone scanning the area. As they settled down, exhaustion heavy on their bodies, Alex realized that the journey had changed him. He was no longer a man living a quiet, ordinary life. He was now a participant in a story far larger than Earth itself, entwined with an alien girl carrying a secret of unimaginable importance. Lyra rested beside him, glowed dim but steady, whispering, "We survived tonight, but the fight is far from over." Alex nodded, staring into the flickering shadows cast by her light, understanding the truth of her words. The world outside was vast, dangerous, and filled with secrets beyond comprehension. But together, human and alien, they had faced the night, survived impossible threats, and begun a bond that could withstand any challenge. And as the wind whispered through the cavern and the river roared in the distance, Alex realized that this final escape was not the end, but the beginning of trust, courage, and a shared mission to protect a secret that could shape the fate of worlds. The pursuers might return, the universe might test them again, but Alex and Lyra were ready. Together, they were no longer prey. They were guardians, united by choice, bravery, and the unbreakable connection forged through fire, fear, and hope.